Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
I am Brittany Pacheco.
And I'm Amber Churchwell.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. That's right, the fifth movie in the Harry Potter franchise, or the Wizarding World franchise, I should say. And before I get Amber and Brittany's thoughts on the film, I want to hit you with some quick Order of the Phoenix facts. The Order of the Phoenix was released July 11th. Oh, you know what? Stop. Let me stop. I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm burying the lead here. We're doing this podcast on Harry Potter's actual birthday. So, first of all, happy birthday, Harry Potter. Amber, what does Harry Potter's birthday mean to you? Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, don't be sorry about that. Honestly, we just started at my Muggle job. We just started our first day back from summer break, and I genuinely had a couple of coworkers who stayed over the summer ask me, like, "I'm surprised you're working today. Isn't it like a holiday for you?" So it's a little bit. I usually just wear a shirt. I make a post for Happy Birthday, Harry. I do a lot of the like real big Harry Potter holiday stuff on Back to Hogwarts Day coming up in September. So but I like it for Harry, and also it's kind of close to my birthday, so kind of just makes me happy. It's the 2 years ago today is when I first launched my YouTube channel, OllivAmber's Wands. So it's actually my channel's birthday too.
Very cool.
Awesome. And I'm throwing up here for y'all to go follow Amber over on her YouTube channel. That's OllivAmber's Wands. The link is in the description box down below. And also go follow her and show her some love over on Instagram, OllivAmbers.wands.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Brittany, what does Harry Potter's birthday mean to you?
Harry Potter's birthday. Well, he also shares a very special birthday with someone in my family, and that is one of my aunts who I travel with. I consider her to be like a second mother to me. So shout out to my tia Irma. Today is her 25th birthday. Yes, 25. She's younger than me. Not really. But anyway, so yeah, it's very special to me, obviously, because Harry Potter is very significant in our childhoods, and not just for those of us who grew up with it, for those who are discovering it in their adulthood. Justin, you're one of them. And it's not as bad as you thought it was, right? Right.
No, not. And so Harry Potter, the boy who lived, he was born on July 31st, 1980, making him 43 years. Who else was born in 1980? This guy. So, me and Harry, we're like, I don't know.
Twin cousins?
Twin cousins. Sure, we're twin cousins. That's an inside joke that doesn't make sense. But anyway, so we are celebrating Harry Potter's birthday today by discussing the Order of the Phoenix, the fifth film in the Wizarding World franchise. And let me start off with some facts about the movie. The Order of the Phoenix was released on July 11th, 2007, a box office of $942 million, which in 2007 made it the second highest grossing film of the year. Brittany, you want to guess what was the highest grossing movie in 2007?
Oh gosh, I had just graduated high school.
It's a character you really like. I'm not sure about the movie series, but the character, you love the character. The actor particularly who plays the character. This is tough.
Yeah, that doesn't narrow it down for me.
Okay, so
anyway,
the highest grossing movie of 2007 was Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should have known, but
right.
Yes, you're right. Johnny Depp. Yes, love.
Yeah.
Captain Jack Sparrow. Yes, love.
Yeah. So Order of the Phoenix was number 2. Number 3 was Spider-Man 3. So, pretty good. 3 pretty big movies for to round out the top 3 that year. However, in a case of creative accounting, or some people call it Hollywood accounting, Warner Brothers claims that the film lost $167 million despite what it grossed. Now, mind you, the movie has a budget of between 150 and 200 million. And again, it grossed 942 million. So it grossed more than 4 times its budget. But Warner Brothers says that it lost $167 million, which Hey, there's a writer's strike and an actor's strike right now, and I think we know why. That's These people are not good with numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
this was done. This was obviously a tax maneuver to get a tax break, but it's ridiculous that a movie that made that much money, they're saying lost money. There's almost no way it lost money. But anyway, back to the facts. The movie has a runtime of 2 hours and 18 minutes, which makes it the second shortest movie. However, The Order of the Phoenix is the longest book. Do y'all want to chime in? Amber, do you have any thoughts on how it's a fairly quick movie, but it's a long book?
It's just always been kind of weird. It's like kind of a little fact that is always discussed when we're talking about Order of the Phoenix. That fact exactly, and there is a lot that they didn't include, of course. But we've also been mentioning that for most of our film reviews. There is a lot with the that we'll get into later with the acclimacy, legitimacy training. That there's a lot that was scrapped in there. There's a lot of other, I guess, just background things that really just wasn't touched on or at all, if at all. And a lot of people actually really don't care for this movie. Like, I know for a fact. Yeah, like Brittany's raising her hand.
Brittany,
yes,
save it. We're gonna get to it.
I know.
A lot of people don't really care for this one. I personally don't really mind it. Again, it's not my favorite out of all of them, but I do like that we do see a lot more dueling and like with it in combat. I do like that we see that. But there are, like I'm sure that Brittany and I are going to get into, there are things that I'm not so much of a fan of.
Yeah, we will get to that shortly. So back to the facts. Directed by David Yates. So for the fourth time in 5 films, we have a new director. However, David Yates would stick around because he directed the final 4 Harry Potter movies and all 3 of the Fantastic Beasts movies, which I was not aware of that. So that's pretty cool that he did 7 of these movies. And then the cast, of course, Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, Michael Gambon, Helena Bonham Carter, Maggie Smith, Robbie Coltrane, Alan Rickman, Gary Oldman, Tom Felton, Brendan Gleeson, Ray Fiennes, Imelda Staunton, Staunton.
Yes.
David Thewlis and Emma Thompson. Okay, so Brittany, I'm going to go to you. What are your overall thoughts of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix?
I have a very, very unpopular opinion, and that is I do not care for Order of the Phoenix in its movie nor its book form. It's just never, ever been up there on my list. I have specific reasons as to why I don't care for the book. And it's mainly that it was just kind of a difficult read at the time. I'm trying to remember when the book was released, because obviously it was released long before the movie came out. But for me at the time, it was a very difficult read to get through because it just dragged. There was so much description. It's like, I don't think this is necessary for whatever the chapter was dealing with or the situation at hand. I also don't care for the book because one of my favorite characters died in this book and I cried. I mean, I actually cried, like my eyes out. My mom's like, what's wrong? Speaking of moms, hello to Amber's mama. Thank you for being here. Also, shout out to those in the chat today. We have Maggie Churchwell here. We also have Yesenia. Thank you for being here. And also Mel of Geeking Out with Melly Mel. Thank you all so much for being here. And to those who may not be joining us in the chat, we appreciate you being here. And also those who are watching the replay. So the main reason I don't care for this book and movie, mainly, Harry's a little punk in this whole storyline. Like he's just so angsty and he's just wah, 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 wah. And I get it. I understand what's going on. No one believes him that the Dark Lord has come back. But dude, I need you to grow a pair and quit being a little B word. Like I just need you to stop. Basically.
Okay. My question, why don't they believe him though? It is frustrating. Like after what happened in the last movie, like after being around Harry Potter, this is the 5th year he's been at Hogwarts. Like they've all been around him. Like, why would he be lying about this? You know, just to me, that's the part of the movie that I did not like. And that's obviously a big part of the movie.
There's a lot of moving parts as to why possibly the greater masses doesn't believe him. And that's because it threatens the government that is the Ministry of Magic. They're not able to deal with the idea that the Dark Lord, who was supposed to be gone, is back. Like, how do you explain that? Because they don't know anything of how Voldemort was able to come back. And also looking at it from a different angle of, oh, Harry just wants attention. You know, Dumbledore is trying to overthrow the Ministry. You know, there's just so many different reasons. And it's just like, oh God, people, like, I need you to stop. I need you to stop.
Yeah.
Amber, so what are your thoughts, overall thoughts on the
movie? Very much the same as Brittany. I also felt I didn't. The book is hard to get through because I feel like it was just that middle point, that middle point of the story where, okay, well, we have to set up for all of this and stuff like that, but we don't want too much happening because we don't want to get to the end of the series. Like, it was just a very dragging book and movie. And I feel like you can feel it in the movie too. Like in the movie, even Justin, I don't know if you got this because you haven't read the books, but like if a lot of you, it just feels like it was dragging too, like compared to the other movies. Like I feel like it was more centered on small little side quests instead of like the main story at times. And I do like that we get to see Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange. That was great. Love her for that character. And I also bawled my eyes out when a certain character meets his end, like Brittany did. We will get to that later. But yeah, I had a lot of feelings with that too. Really, it's just, it's a Harry Potter movie. I love it regardless, but
Yeah, I kind of like, it's only my second time watching the movie, but I think compared to the other 4 films, after this one was over, I was like, wow, that they didn't really move the ball down the field very much. Like it was like like there weren't a ton of like huge moments. I mean, there was the duel with Dumbledore and Voldemort. I think that was pretty cool. And I do remember that from the first time watching. I was like, oh, this is the one where that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the character that we're talking about, we'll get to, that dies. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, it was a shorter movie, which I didn't mind that because, it's just easier to like do these podcasts when the movies are quicker and you can fly through them. But there wasn't a ton that kind of happened in this movie. It seemed like it was just kind of like, if this were a TV show, it would be like in the middle of the season, which makes sense because this movie is kind of in the middle of the series. So all that makes sense. Brittany, a little bit ago, you mentioned about the book, not knowing exactly when it came out. I looked it up. It came out June 21st, 2003. So 4 years before the film.
Okay, so that would have been the summer I was about to go into high school.
Okay.
And the thing about me, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before in other podcasts, as well as on my second channel, is that I used to go to the midnight book releases and wait in line, get the book, read as much as I could into the wee hours of the morning before sleep needed to be had, get up and continue reading, because I was also in like this unspoken competition with my siblings to see who could finish the book the fastest. And I would stay in my room and read. I would get food and bring it back, but continue reading. And like I said, the part in the book where one of my favorite characters died, I mean, I came out to the living room and my mom's like, what's wrong? And then I tell her and she's like, seriously? Like, you're crying over a fictional character? Like, seriously? And when we come to that part, I'll elaborate. But
it wasn't seriously. His name's Sirius.
I hate you so much, Justin. I swear to God. That was good. That was very witty. I can appreciate that. But yeah, like the book is just it's long, like you mentioned. It's the longest book in the series, and it's very odd that it's the shortest movie in the series. So I don't know how.
The final movie is the shortest.
You're right. But at that time, it was the shortest. Yeah.
Right.
So there are some important things that obviously did happen in the movie that obviously does pertain to the bigger story. However, yeah, there was things that were left out that I would have liked to have seen. And there were things that were in there that I just thought, like, this is not necessary. Like, it's just not. Mel saying, Britt, I feel so old. I graduated high school in 2002. Yeah, sorry.
Guys, I graduated in 2012.
I graduated in 98. So I was in the 90s. So like that's
he graduated in a completely different century.
I was 4.
It was before Y2K. You know, like we were worried about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we really were. moving forward.
Yeah, moving on. So one of the things we always do, we talked about the director and the cast, and the new additions to the cast. Let's talk about the director a little bit. Again, I mentioned for the 4th time in 5 films, we had a new director, and this was the director's name is David Yates. I'll start with you, Amber. Is there anything about this movie that you noticed maybe looked? Do you think the movie looked a little less? Like the quality of it wasn't as high as the other movies, because that's what I thought when I was watching this movie. What's your take on that?
It wasn't really that for me. It was more of the well, first and foremost, just because I feel like it bears mention, they got a haircut, thank God.
That's true. The boys did get a haircut.
Yeah, thank God. But I didn't really notice too much quality. There's just more of I noticed more in audio things in movies, like whatever songs are playing or sounds and things like that. I feel like I actually really, really like it. I feel like when people do edits or anything and pull out the audio, if it's not Hedwig's theme song, like the main theme song, they usually pull the fireworks song from Fred and George's little fireworks display. Or they'll do the Umbridge's theme song with the yeah, like the music I feel is more consistently iconic, and it's not just Hedwig's theme song that's more noticeable. It's other songs too that are very recognizable, as well as during that final duel with Dumbledore and Voldemort that you mentioned earlier. I love the sounds of the spells. Like just the sounds of the spells. Like it's not even really like the visuals. It's just each individual spell makes its own like small little sound, and I just really, really like it. I really noticed that on my rewatch was just the sounds. I really liked that. As for the actual visuals, I don't really know if I noticed any visual differences other than the haircuts.
Oh, I will give you a visual, and Justin, I think we're probably on the same wavelength when it comes to it, and it's that of the CGI for Grop, Hagrid's giant brother, right?
And the centaurs?
The centaurs are bad, but I think Grop is probably the worst thing.
I tend to try and not think about it.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I think the CGI with that respect was probably the roughest it looked throughout the whole series, because obviously this is a magical world. There's magical beasts. One that we get to see that's new for us because we can finally see it thanks to Harry are the Thestrals. They're skeleton ponies, if you will. You know, they're cool looking though, right? They're bony ponies. Exactly. That sounds weird to say out loud. But anyway,
That's from another podcast.
I know. But they look cool. I think the Thestrals are well executed, from the adult Thestral to the little, kind of baby Thestral that we'll see in the movie. But I think the worst CGI thing is Grop. And also keep in mind too, after Goblet of Fire, the titles for the Warner Brothers logo is progressively becoming darker and progressively becoming more deteriorated. And that's, on theme with what's coming with the storyline as we're getting closer to the end of the storyline. And so that's done on purpose. I think that's brilliant. Visually, it's starting to get a little bit darker. Not as dark as what's that episode in Game of Thrones, just in season 8, where we didn't know what was happening. Battle of Winterfell.
Right.
Yeah. So so visually the movie is starting to get darker. However, like I said, the CGI with Grop is just pretty bad. Andrew in the chat says Order of the Phoenix has the best duel of any film. I think that's pretty on point. I think the duel between Voldemort and Dumbledore is probably the best duel.
I agree. I responded to him saying I agree, because I feel like a lot of the duels, even the ones that come up in the future movies, especially with Harry and Voldemort and others, it's just priori incantatem, priori incantatem, priori incantatem. I want to see actual dueling. I don't want to see just Expelliarmus and Avada Kedavra and priori incantatem. I want to see something else, and that's exactly what it was. We got to see the cool fire, water, glass shattering. It was cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. And about Grop, he doesn't look bad. He looks uncanny, and our brains see that he isn't real. That's a fair point. I will give it that. I don't know. I just feel like the colors, the lighting, the shadows were just not
it's a lot of
complementary to the Forbidden Dark Forest. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like it was also very muted, the whole thing. Color wise, there wasn't as much vibrancy, especially as when in other movies, the red is really red, while here is more muted. And
yeah, that's really all I can offer when it comes down to the visuals, noticeable visuals to me that just stuck out like a sore thumb. So
yeah, I mean, Brittany, the backgrounds we have that you created, this color is very much the color of that forest scene. And you're right, it is kind of a muted. It's like if Zack Snyder directed Harry Potter, kind of it's that kind of look. And that's part of
light filter.
Yeah, exactly. Similar, that kind of look. I just don't think it works as well with these characters. But also Grop, need a better name, bud. They got to come up with a better name. That was a very much a Star Wars kind of Count Dooku and whatever. Let's just give him the worst name possible. Anyway.
Grop. Well, I mean, again, Justin, if you read the books, you would see that there's some kind of talk about giants and their names and how they're just kind of very out there kind of names. So it's kind of it's on theme. It's appropriate, but I can see from someone who's solely watched the movies that comes off as being this is a really dumb name.
Especially since they never talk about Grop ever again.
Right. They don't talk about. We'll see him again. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, they don't really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's a minor character. I mean, even though he's a giant, we don't he doesn't continue on. I don't. Yeah, so it's whatever. But not the greatest name. But let's get to some additions to the cast, because they have some great names. And Brittany, I want to start with you, because one of the new characters we got was Luna Lovegood. Now, Luna is a special name for you, because that's the name of your dog. Did you name Luna your dog after Luna Lovegood?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah. It was kind of funny just because when John and I were talking about getting Luna, so we have a cardigan corgi. She is a red and white corgi, and so we knew that from the get-go. And John's like, well, I want to name her Sansa, because Sansa is a redhead that's in Game of Thrones. And said, well, I want to name her Luna because that was just always in my head. I knew I wanted to give my dog a Harry Potter name. And so we compromised and named her Luna. And that's how Luna became Luna. But we'll say Luna Lovegood Pacheco, for getting after her. So because she has her derpy moments, like she's kind of like, hi, but we absolutely love Luna. She's the love of my life. I would do anything for her and protect her at all costs.
And when she's
yes,
bad,
yeah, that's how marriage works. Exactly. You compromise and then I win. That's how it works.
and when Luna's bad, you just call her Grop, right? You just like that was her backup name. No, okay.
I call her something else.
Yeah. So anyway, to get to the addition of the character, so Ivana Lynch is the actress who plays Luna Lovegood, and she won the role, beating out 15,000 other girls who attended the open casting call, waiting in a line of hopefuls that stretched a mile long. Now that is insane. And one of those hopefuls that she beat out was Saoirse Ronan, who has gone on to have a pretty good career of her own. Saoirse Ronan is 3 years younger than Ivana Lynch. So I guess that's the main reasons, because she was younger. And Ivana Lynch in this movie, when all the characters are together, she looks younger than them to me. So, Amber, what'd you think about Ivana Lynch playing Luna Lovegood in this movie?
I've always liked Luna as a character because she's, whimsical and dreamy and just odd, and I like her. I think she did really, really well at showing, the kind of airy, not all quite there energy that Luna has. I think she did really, really well with it. And also, it's actually kind of a good thing that she looks a little bit younger because she is a year younger than them.
Okay.
Her and Ginny are in the same year, so she's a year younger than Harry, the trio.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay.
The other way to describe Luna Lovegood is that she's basically the anti-Hermione. Hermione, who's very analytical and bookish and just like, this is a matter of fact kind of thing. Luna is everything opposite of that, which kind of brings balance to the friends, because there's the golden trio, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and then there's the silver trio, which is Luna, Neville, and Ginny. And we'll talk more about that later. However, I love that there's that opposite end of the spectrum for a character, Hermione, whom we all love generally, and you get a different version in a sense, if that makes any sense at all. So yeah, Luna's a great character, and she has her moments. She has her moments that we'll see in the coming movies where she really stands her ground. You gotta love it.
I also think it's really interesting for her, I feel like she was kind of a fresh air for us and for Harry, considering Harry's, he is very bratty throughout this entire movie, but he is going through PTSD. He did just see, somebody die in front of him for the first time. And he does very much feel like it's his fault. And he also feels isolated from Dumbledore and therefore everybody else. Like, boy's going through it. I feel like this was a very perfect time for him to meet Luna, because she explains to him that what Thestrals are, what you are seeing, this is perfectly normal for you to be seeing right now. Like, and I feel like that kind of airiness and clarity and I guess like silliness, and like how she's very much the entire time, like people steal her shoes, they steal her clothing, they steal things from her, and she's just like, it'll get back to me eventually. Like, I feel like her nonchalance about things is just so, I feel like that was kind of vital for Harry this year. Like, I think that's something that he really needed to see. So I think she was a very important character to come in for the 6th book.
And to piggyback off that real quick is that in a moment where Harry feels like no one believes him, I mean, obviously his best friends believe him, but then even then they kind of have like some reservations about what Harry is experiencing and how he's behaving and what have you. he's getting reassurance from someone whom he's never met, and her saying, hey, by the way, we believe you about he who must not be named is back. And if I were who, I want you to feel isolated as well. So in other words, everything that Harry's thinking and feeling is validated by Luna. And I think that's a really great aspect for Harry to have in his life, so that he knows that he's not going crazy, I guess you could say. And yeah, she kind of puts things in a different perspective for you to consider. And that's what makes her just so wonderful and so like magical and so lovable. So shout out real quick to those joining us in the chat. We have Leslie here who's joining us. We also have Corey, whom is Amber's producer extraordinaire.
Very cool.
And we also are going to say hello to McDorks. What's up, y'all? Thank you so much for being here.
Very cool. So we talked about earlier about how, it's the fourth time in 5 films that we've had a new director. For the 5th time in 5 films, we have a new defense against the dark arts teacher. So
it's almost like the director and the data teacher positions are cursed.
Yeah, or jinxed. Who knows? Maybe somebody did that. Who knows?
Who
I
knows?
think they are. Yeah. So in this film, Imelda Staunton was cast as Dolores Umbridge. I think she's great in this film. I wasn't familiar with this actress at all. Amber, talk about this character, what this character means to Harry Potter, how her introduction was handled in the movie, and just your general thoughts about the character.
Well, for one, Imelda's a very phenomenal actress. If you've seen her in other films and other media, she's a great actress. I've seen her talking in an interview that she was a little surprised when she heard about the description of Umbridge from the books, because the description of Umbridge from the books is that she's a kind of toad-faced, and
she's ugly.
Yeah, she's toad-faced, and she's okay. I saw her respond to that in the interview, which was kind of funny. But I think she did really well at showing how, I guess, calculating and falsely sweet Umbridge is. It's literally the definition of sickeningly. She tries to act all sweet and cute and hi, I'm just taking care of what's best for you, but it's really just evil and manipulative. It's common among the fan base that people hate her more than they hate Voldemort.
Okay.
It's true.
She's the true villain in this whole series. I don't care what people say. Voldemort was bad. He had an agenda.
Yeah.
But Dolores,
she was torturing children.
Okay, right? Yeah. Yeah, she is what really gives Slytherin House a really bad name.
Yes.
Yeah, that's some info for y'all. She's a Slytherin. She's a half-blood who tries to pretend that she's pure blood and thinks that the Ministry of Magic, whom she works for originally, can do no wrong, and she's just going to do everything that the Minister of Magic says. And it's horrible. I mean, it's for someone who seems to not be able to think for themselves and just goes with whatever the masses says to do. And then she adds her own form of torturous twist to it, and it's terrible. It's honestly horrible. And that little laugh, I don't know if you can call it a laugh, but her little I do it absentmindedly, and John hates it every single time I do it. He's like, stop that right now. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't mean to do this. But she has a lasting effect on not only the watcher from the movies, but from the book. For the reader, you learn to hate this woman almost instantaneously from the moment that we first meet her at Harry's trial. He's being tried for using underage magic. They don't believe that the Dementors that he encountered were really there. She's like, you, when Dumbledore comes to his defense, Dumbledore, you're basically insinuating that the Dementors are operating outside of Ministry or without ministry consent, which, by the way, she was the one who ordered the Dementor attack on Harry.
And she
Just
tried to use that.
saying.
She tried to use that exact same, like almost the exact same wording with McGonagall later on. Like,
Yeah.
are you trying to say that the ministry is like putting improper practices in the school?
Yes,
like,
bitch, that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, and it's really so. She is just the perfect segue for us to see, because we don't really have that much interaction with the ministry, but in the future books, you know, we're going to see how like they are fallible, they are not that great and not that well organized, and it's just she's kind of the symbolic first interaction of that. She's the one showing us, hey, this is how corrupt and horrible these things can be, even without being tied to Voldemort. So it's just showing that even the ministry, who are supposed to be against Voldemort, are not even that wonderful.
Power is power, y'all. I mean, it's a tricky thing having power, and she really let it go to her head, especially when she was trying to put all these proclamations into place for limiting the students and therefore also limiting the teachers. She's evaluating them and trying to sack one of them, banish one of them, you know, from the Hogwarts grounds, and really just trying to take over. And when she finally does, it's like it's sickening. It's horrible. And one I loved what they did visually in the movie to show her ascension to power. She's known for wearing pink. She loves pink. Her office is all pink. She also has a fascination with kittens, okay? Which is weird. But pink. She wears pink from the moment that we first meet her to her last time that we see her. And the color pink is getting progressively I don't know if the word is brighter or more intense. It's showing her gain of power, and it's really cool. I love how they visually did that, because I've been to the London tour and saw the set for her office. It's pink. It's sickening. The costumes look fantastic. I'm not sad to say, because I think it's a great piece of merch. I have a Loungefly backpack, a mini backpack that is to represent Dolores Umbridge, with the kitten plate and the pink. And I'm like, you hate it, but you love it at the same time. It's really cool.
My problem with the character is she was appointed or hired to be the defense against the dark arts professor, right?
Yep.
And then her first day, she refuses to teach defensive spells. I mean, like, it's in the title, defense against the dark arts. And then we had to know something's up, right? They had to know something was going on. So,
yeah, it's like what Hermione said, that the ministry was interfering with Hogwarts, because the minister, Fudge, he thought that Dumbledore was going to try to overthrow the ministry, take his job, and you know, just, I mean, when people are in denial about stuff, they come up with some really crazy delusional ideas, and Fudge was right there, just right there.
Fudge wasn't that great.
No.
Also,
he really fudged up that position.
There you
go.
I mean, not a great name. Like, this is let's
Cornelius Fudge.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
You could, if you shorten his name, be Corn Fudge. You know, like, it just
Fudge.
It's not great. Cornelius is like such a strong name, and then Fudge, like,
Cornelius reminds me of the character from Babar. Sorry, that's just where my childhood. Babar the elephant. Anyway, moving on.
From Babar to Bellatrix Lestrange, let's talk about that character and the casting for it. So, as we know, Helena Bonham Carter ended up playing the role, but originally Elizabeth Hurley was rumored for the role. Then an actress named Helen McCrory, who I wasn't familiar with, actually got the role. However, she she had to give up the role because she was 3 months pregnant.
Yep.
She later did play another character in the Wizarding world, however. So
She does.
right.
She plays Bellatrix's sister.
She does.
Yeah.
It may forever rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sadly, I was going to say she died in April of 2021 of breast cancer. So
yeah,
very sad. But what did y'all think of? And I'll start with Amber. What did you think of Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange?
Loved it. I loved it. I loved it so much. She just plays that wacky, slightly insane, hectic, wild energy that Bellatrix really, really embodies. And I feel like Helena did such a great job with it. And we do see a lot more of Bellatrix later. But I think this is a very important book and movie for us to be introduced to Bellatrix, because we do learn what happened to Neville's parents, and they do talk about it in the movie, but in the books we actually get to see the Longbottoms. That's actually how it wasn't that Sirius told Harry, or Neville even told Harry what happened with his parents. It was that they were visiting after the snake attack. They were visiting Ron's dad in the hospital in St. Mungo's, and they saw Neville there, and Neville was visiting his parents because they were driven insane. They're nonverbal, not able to communicate, and both of them were Aurors, Dark Wizard catchers, before the attack and the torture. That Bellatrix wasn't the only one who was torturing them, but she was, the one leading it. She was the one orchestrating all of that, and she was the one who did most of the torture. So especially with all of the interaction that Bellatrix had with Neville, like that conversation of like, how's mom and dad? And Neville's rightfully angry. And she was the one who was restraining him later on in the Department of Mysteries and the Death Room. I really liked her portrayal. She was showing this character. And Bellatrix is interesting because it's Sirius's cousin, and she's the Draco Malfoy's aunt on his mother's side. And I really liked Helena in it. I love Bellatrix, and she's just perfectly insane.
Yeah, I agree. And I wanted to point out something that Yesenia here said in the chat about Helena Bonham Carter, born to play this role.
Yes.
I mean, if you're going to cast someone who's kind of got like a wacky style and just marches to the beat of a different drum, I mean, that's pretty much going to be Helena Bonham Carter. And I think to bring out both that wackiness and then also that menacing side that is Bellatrix, Helena just knocked it out of the park. I mean, when we first see Helena on screen, it's after the explosion in Azkaban, which is the wizard prison. She's there along with several other of Voldemort's followers known as Death Eaters, and you see that on their forearm they have a tattoo of what's called a dark mark. And this was Helena's idea. When you see her licking the forearm, licking that tattoo as it's coming through, that was Helena Bonham Carter's idea. I mean, this just tells you how much she was already into Bellatrix's psyche, if you will. Like many actors do method acting and really just delve into the background of a character. And I mean, she just nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And I couldn't imagine someone else playing Bellatrix other than Helena. So yeah. And one thing Andrew here in the chat says, a big missed opportunity with the movie was not seeing Neville's parents and Harry using Crucio, and Bellatrix telling Harry he has to really want to cause the pain. Yeah, well,
he did use Crucio. That's what knocked her off of her feet.
Yeah, but not like to the intensity.
Yeah, it was just a shock. And Voldemort did say, like, you have to mean it. Go ahead. And he, like, when he was trying to egg him on to actually torture her, like, actually use Crucio. But it should have been Bellatrix.
Yes.
I feel like it should have been Bellatrix.
There's also a kind of a, just really quick, and we'll continue, a conversation between Harry and Bellatrix when they're in the Hall of Prophecies.
Mm-hmm.
Was Harry telling Bellatrix, like, did you know, or do you know that Tom Riddle, he's a half-blood. He's not a pure-blood. Like, you're following someone who's not even a pure-blood wizard, and you don't think anything of it. Like, so basically you coming from a family, the noble house of Black, they were all purebloods. They all loved the fact that they were purebloods. They all, you know, were in Slytherin with the exception of Sirius Black, and all had this mentality of that we're better than everyone else. You know, Bellatrix, no exception. But for someone of that stature to follow a half-blood who thinks he should be better than everyone else, and I don't know, it's just like this constant of like absent-mindedly following someone and not really being able to think for yourself. It's just like it's a theme. It's obviously a theme.
Very much.
It's crazy. It's honestly crazy when you think about it. So shout out to Bricky Hallows, who's joining us here in the chat. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's always good to add new people or add people that have been here before to show up for the show. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Speaking of Bellatrix, of course, we've talked about it a lot this episode. We haven't really just come out and said it, but she kills your favorite character, Brittany. So go through that moment where Bellatrix, the cousin of Sirius Black, ends up killing Sirius Black. Let's talk about it.
Oh man, do you want to talk about it? I mean, do you want to talk about it from the perspective when I first read the book? Good Lord.
Well, I mean, obviously you knew it was going to be in the movie because you read the book, but how does it compare, like what you read in the book to what you saw on screen? Because I got to be honest, from like as a spectator in this battle, because I don't have a dog in any of these fights, but his death wasn't like that memorable to me, or wasn't like as dramatic as maybe it should have been. So anyway, you take it away.
So I will agree to that, because you don't get that substance of just how much he and Harry have bonded since the moment Harry found out Sirius was innocent of his crimes. He's the only last family member, if you will, that Harry has in his life. And you don't see that relationship be nurtured and grow, and just how much Harry and Sirius mean to one another. Yeah. So that's a problem with this movie, because they really shortcut a lot of things that I felt were really important, and this was one of them. For Sirius's death in the movie to really be that impactful, it just was not justified, in my personal opinion. And this is obviously the reason why, while reading the books, I cried as much as I did at 14 years old when Sirius died, because it was tragic, especially to happen in front of Harry, and for Harry to, the guilt that he felt and verbalized afterwards, saying he should have done something about it. He should have, I can't remember specifically during the duel, but he basically said that it was his fault, that he wanted to go through that archway to get Sirius and bring him back, which, you know, would have been silly because Harry would have died in the process probably. But yeah, you just don't quite get that same impact of Sirius's death in the movie. Now, I will say Daniel's performance, I think, was great. From what I've read, that his scream was so visceral that like they had to mute it because it was that gut wrenching. You know, like I think even Emma Watson cried on set when they were doing that scene. So acting wise, I think you kind of got it from Daniel, but overall the impact just wasn't quite as bad or quite as intense as it should have been. Amber, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree, because not even just the lack of showing the development between Harry and Sirius, but also just they don't really talk about Sirius's life. The fact that Sirius, when he was very, very young, when he was put into Azkaban, and then he spent 13 years in Azkaban, and then he's free, but he's basically on house arrest. He can't leave Grimmauld Place. He can't. Or he shouldn't. And they do have suspicions that, like, Lucius sees him as a dog at King's Cross Station, and he has suspicions about that dog. Like, it's, and I mean, even the fact that his animagus form is a dog, like, he wants to let the man frolic, let the man run through a field. Like, he was basically imprisoned his entire life. And even then, before he ran away at 16, when he lived with his family, he did not get along with his family. It was very horrible childhood. So, like, this poor man has spent his entire life feeling trapped and restrained, and he was just trying to help his godson, and it's so sad. It's so sad, and they don't address it properly in the movie at all. Same thing with how they don't really talk about his growing relationship with Harry.
Yeah. And
it wasn't just that that he's the only family that Harry has. It's the fact that Harry was the only family that Sirius had left. Like, technically, by extension, and cousins and stuff like that, yeah, he has those, but we know that they don't treat him well. And, like, technically him and Nymphadora and Draco are related, but whatever. It's just, that was his family. He ran away from the Black family, to live with Harry's dad. Like, the Potters were just as much his family as he is to Harry, and we don't get as much feeling. People like Brittany and I, who have that connection to this character, doesn't really. And Andrew just mentioned that, he has Lupin. I don't know if you meant like Harry has Lupin or Sirius has Lupin. Yes, they do, but Lupin is able to go out and about. He's able to have that life, and Harry had to grow up with the Dursleys because of the love magic, and Sirius had to be, regardless of company, being trapped in a home. I mean, I think the pandemic kind of taught us all that that's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
So it's just sad.
Amber, you just mentioned the Dursleys, which that was something I wasn't expecting, because, you know, in the last movie we didn't get the Dursleys at all, and to open the movie with the Dursleys, I was like, man, they're back, and like the kids now like wearing like what, Fubo or whatever shirts or whatever. I'm just like, what's going on with the
Big D?
clothes? Jeez.
I know it's rough.
And again, I mean, like, Harry's been through so much, and like he's got all these like spells, and he's a wizard, and like he could just do anything he wants to this kid and this family, and the restraint he shows is unbelievable, because if this guy had those powers, the Dursleys would be done. They would, like,
I think the whole world would be done.
Yeah, but especially those
you would be Voldemort and Thanos in one. Good God.
They're just so horrible to him all the time. It's like, they're such a bummer too. Like, and then they start off the movie with them, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I, you know, obviously I have seen these movies all once before. It's been several years, but I'm like, please tell me they're not in any more of these movies. I'm sure they will be.
Well,
but
also
they will
there's bits in the book from that whole exchange and that whole situation with the Dementor attack that was not mentioned in the movies, that does kind of like hint at important things in the future. The fact
my God, yes.
When Harry does get the chance to explain that it was Dementors I was trying to protect them from. I was protecting him. Like, he was trying to explain, and like Vernon was not hearing any of it. He's like, you heard my sound, whatever. And Petunia was like, no, I know what those are.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about them. So for Petunia to say something,
yeah,
huge step. It's completely different from what we've seen before, but we never get that.
No,
in the movie.
Not at all. No, yeah. Justin, I wanted to ask you, who's worse in this movie, in your opinion, the Dursleys or Umbridge?
I mean, Umbridge is a much more important character. Obviously, she's like the fun police for all of Hogwarts. So
Pretty
like,
much.
but I just think they're so like. I'm still gonna say the Dursleys just because I just have such a history with them now. But
you're their biggest fan.
Yeah, huge fan of the Dursleys. But no, I mean Umbridge is a much bigger character, and you know the fact that they're putting up those plaques throughout the movie, like we mentioned before, where it's like, you know, students can't gather together, they can't have these like groups or whatever. And by the way, I wanted to talk about that because, you know, in previous movies, the houses were really important. You know, whether you're Slytherin or Hufflepuff or whatever. In this movie, it's all about: are you part of the Ministry of Magic? Are you a member of the Order of the Phoenix? Are you, you know, did you enlist in Dumbledore's army? Are you a part of the Inquisitorial Squad? I mean, there's a lot of groups in this movie.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, Amber?
It's another thing that kind of like Jake, the author should have done this. She should have done like the fact Brittany and I have been as Slytherins, we've been mentioning throughout the whole thing that it kind of bums us out a little that all Slytherins 100% are evil. And it kind of irked me that all of the Inquisitorial Squad were Slytherins, and there was not one Slytherin in the Order of the Phoenix, because they wouldn't have even thought to invite them. But it's like, I don't know, it just kind of like the entire house, really? But so that's something that does kind of bother me, but it's always going to bother me, and we can't fix it. So it was interesting, I guess, seeing, I feel like it's like a baby level step towards the final battle, like where things like are you a Death Eater or are you not? And it's kind of a stepping stone towards that. Like, are you going to be on this side or are you going to be on that side? And it's really kind of showing that these are kids, but they're going to have to make these choices, and they're already starting to make these choices.
Yeah, there's definite foreshadow, and everything that Amber just said with the division of factions, if you will, and foreshadowing the fact that there are people, adults included, that are going to divide. You know, do you believe that Voldemort really is back, and are you going to stand with him or are you going to stand against him? And with what's happening with inside Hogwarts, obviously shapes the students into the adults that they're going to be. And so you have, when you finally see a lot of the houses come together to join Dumbledore's army, it obviously shows that it doesn't matter your background or, you know, family situation, your blood status, or that kind of thing. It's what are you going to do? Are you going to stand by and let the bad things happen, or are you going to actually, you know, do something about it? And you know, it's the kids that kind of have to take that stand, because the order is falling apart. You know, this movie is called Order of the Phoenix, but we do see that there's a lot happening amongst the order themselves. Is that from the very get-go, they were disagreeing about what was happening and whether or not they should tell Harry about the, you know, the big secret, the big weapon that Voldemort was trying to get access to.
Yeah.
I think even amongst the kids, they were still hesitant about Snape being part of the order, and Harry.
Are we all?
Well, Harry having the opinion that Snape is basically a double agent, and he kind of wasn't wrong. So, you know, it's just a lot of great foreshadowing, of course, when it comes down to like student seeing what's going on amongst the students. And to kind of echo what something Dumbledore had previously said to Harry is about dark times, you know, lie ahead. Soon we'll have to basically decide on between what is right and what is easy. And that we're starting to see that in these coming movies.
Yeah, you mentioned Snape, and I want to talk about the flashback scene where Harry sees his dad basically bullying Snape when they were younger.
Mhm.
And I'd forgotten about that. That was a very interesting scene because it's, Harry is, his parents, obviously it's perfect people that, he holds
In his
up
mind.
in his mind. Right. And so for
Yeah.
him to see that, you can tell like it definitely bothered him. And I thought that was it was a well done way to like maybe also kind of soften Snape. He's not this just, this guy who's everyone thinks is a bad guy in disguise, but not well disguised. So
It's kind of like he's a bad guy because of these reasons.
right.
And you'll see more of Snape's background in coming movies, but to plant that seed and for Harry to visually see it for himself of what his father did to Snape while they were students at Hogwarts. James Potter wasn't this person on a pedestal that Harry has always made him out to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, yes, your parents dying for you is a pretty big deal. That doesn't mean you weren't a little shit when you were, a kid. And this reigns true for not only Snape, but the Marauders. And you also don't get that from the Marauders because you don't know who they are. Anyway, beside the point. But yeah, James Potter was, for all intents and purposes, a bully.
Yeah, and you see it with it also, like in the books, Harry even like writes to Sirius about it, like, "Hey, I saw these things. Like, what is up with?" Like he had to kind of deal with the conflict of having his worldview, his vision of Lupin and Sirius, not just his father. Like it changed how he viewed all of them.
Yeah. And there's more to it that you obviously don't see in the movies. James Potter eventually did save Snape's life from Lupin when he was in werewolf form.
Because of Sirius.
Because of Sirius. It was a practical joke that Sirius was going to perform on Snape, and James finally, wisened up and was like, no, this is a really bad idea. Like, we're going to get someone killed. And that's part of the reason why Snape has always hated James, and by extension Harry, is because of the fact that he owed it to James for protecting Harry in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish they did more of the flashbacks. You really got to understand why Snape hated James Potter so much, and Sirius and the whole lot of them. Why he hated the whole lot of them more so. But yeah.
Well, I also feel like even the just clemency, the entire thing, I feel like in the movie they downplayed it more than it should have been. That's a very important thing that they do, and it kind of drives me absolutely bonkers that they had to do that for that I feel like it was only just 20 minutes of the movie, if that. And it was kind of like, oh yeah, we also need to do this too. Like we got to do this too. But everything was like, oh, let's talk about the Dumbledore's army and the Order and this and that and the secret weapon, and very, very minor, oh, by the way, you should learn this, when that's actually really important. Can we get back to that? It bothered me.
I see your point. At the same time, though, it's not something that Harry actually ever excelled in. So to not really put a lot of emphasis into the lessons itself, it kind of just shows that they didn't put in the effort because Harry ultimately doesn't excel in that skill set anyway. Now, what I will say, one of my favorite lines of the whole series is done in these visions when Snape goes into Harry's mind and you see different things from different movies, which, by the way, I thought that was really great that they brought in a scene when Harry first sees his parents in the mirror from the very first movie. And then you see Snape kind of fill in that space between the parents, and he's like feeling sentimental. That's not the favorite line, But I thought that was very well pieced together. And it's the scene, still from the same movie, when Harry is rescued from the Dursleys and makes it to Grimmauld Place, and he sees Sirius Black for the very first time. So he runs and hugs him, and they, bear hug kind of thing. And Snape's in the background in the vision. I may vomit. That's my favorite line. One of my favorite lines throughout the whole series is just him saying, "I may vomit." It's like it's just so appropriate, and just how Alan Rickman delivers it is just wonderful.
Mine were just like the burns. Like there was quite a good digs in this one. What was it that, because Hermione gave a couple to Ron, which are like the emotional range of a teaspoon.
I have that on a teaspoon.
Good. Great merch.
Great
then
merch.
there's just and Harry of course when Dolores is like, tell them I mean no harm. Sorry, Professor, I must not tell lies.
Right.
I
Wonderful.
lost it. I was just like, yeah, it was perfect. And there are others, but
there are others. I mean, like Fred and George, before they make their great, farewell performance, if you will, and saying how they always thought that I can't remember the line specifically, but it was
their talents exceeded
with that of academic progress or something of that nature, and it's just so cleverly put together. Yeah, this movie I cannot quote as well as the other movies because I just don't care for this movie as much. But there are some pretty good one-liners in this movie. But the vomit comment is probably my favorite.
The vomit.
Also,
comment. There we go.
I feel like the comebacks are just getting better anyway, regardless. I feel like when after Harry and Hermione, distract Umbridge with Grop and the Centaurs or whatever, and they meet up with them, and Ron explains what he did to get the Inquisitorial Squad, by tricking them into eating the food, and Hermione's just like, that was clever, Ron, and he's like, it happens. Or it's been known to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like just the sass and the comments and I don't know.
Listen, this is just another example of how movie Ron just does not do book Ron any justice. Book Ron was so much wittier and funnier than what we get in movie Ron. No disrespect to Rupert Grint, none whatsoever. It's just the script writers. Damn you. Moving on.
Well, I wanted to kind of talk about Ron and Hermione because they're obviously, they form the golden trio with Harry, but to me, and they're obviously in this movie a ton, but they don't have their own kind of storylines in this movie like they kind of did in the past movie. So what did y'all think about how they kind of took a back seat in the Order of the Phoenix? Do you agree with that, Amber?
Honestly, I feel like they needed it after the drama of
the
Yule Ball and I feel like them kind of starting to be friends again was just nice. I liked it. I feel like it was needed, very much needed. And I feel like it was just kind of a way for them to highlight Harry's other friends because he is friends with the twins. He's just best friends with Rob, and he is friends with Neville, and he is friends with he does become friends with Luna, and he has a budding relationship with Cho ish. Whatever, we're not gonna get into that.
Now I was gonna ask why did it fall apart in this movie? I mean, what obviously he thinks that she did something. Just explain how that all worked out.
In the book, it's slightly different, but in the movie, they believe that she was the one that ratted out the Dumbledore's army to Umbridge.
Oh, right.
That's in the movie. It's actually one of her friends that we don't really see in the movies. In the book, it was one of her friends did it, but
it was so much more dramatic in the book. So much more dramatic.
Yeah, and I mean, they did. We can talk about the curse later, but whatever. But like, they did go on a date. They went on a Valentine's Day date, but like, so it's so
From
funny.
hell.
Yeah, it was such a
It was a
bad
shit show.
date. Yeah, it was not a great date. They went. It was Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Valentine's Day. They went to the tea shop in Hogsmeade that is like known for couples, and like there's hearts and everything, whatever. It's like, it's just generally horrible. But all Cho and Harry really talked about was Cedric. And like, you're on a Valentine's Day date with a girl, and all you guys are talking about is her dead ex that you watched die. That's just bad. And then she's crying through it. And then he also, we know that Harry doesn't have any romantic interest in Hermione, but she doesn't know that. And he says, on Valentine's Day, he's like, hey, I have to go meet up with Hermione. Like, to a girl, a teenage girl, you're on a date with a boy on Valentine's Day, and he says, I gotta go meet my very pretty best friend girl. Like, bye. Like,
yeah.
It was so bad.
It's bad. It's bad,
Yeah.
but the scene that plays out in the movie, and I'm having this conversation with Andrew in the chat, he simply said the word wet. That literally makes me cringe every single time I've watched this movie, and Harry's back in the common room telling Ron and Hermione how snogging, which is the British word for kissing, went, and he's making out, and he's like, it's wet, and it's like, that just makes me cringe. It's a terrible line. I don't know why that was necessary. It's fine how it played out in the movie, because it kind of just makes sense to have a one-on-one moment post of a lesson in the room of requirement, which, by the way, is like a really cool room that most people cannot find unless you're like in desperate need of its use. And
Love the room.
That's another great line that Ron says. So say you really need the toilet. It's like, yes, the room of requirement would turn into a bathroom or have a toilet for you to use it. Yes. But yeah, like I like how, and to kind of go back to your original question, Justin, about Hermione and Ron kind of taking a back seat, is they're kind of like operating in the background to making sure that Harry's in the forefront to teach the students to use defense against the dark arts spells, and thus forming Dumbledore's army, thus using the room of requirement as practice. And they're like the little puppet masters, and Harry's a little marionette, if you will. And it's just kind of funny how that all works, because then Hermione will acknowledge it once they get busted by Umbridge, that if it's anyone's fault, it's ours. We talked you into this. You were hesitant about it from the get-go, and now all this has transpired. So I think it's kind of appropriate that it kind of happened that way, but then also to kind of, again, cut out scenes and then morph them into the way that they morphed them, especially with Cho and Harry. It also kind of feels like it came out of left field as well, to some degree. The Ginny and Harry thing, which we'll talk about next movie, really came out of left field. It's like a big disconnect. I don't know. It just doesn't feel, oh, look, I say disconnect, and Andrew here says disconnection. I think it's also meant to show Harry's disconnection from them. He's in a place that's different from them by seeing Cedric murdered. Absolutely, for sure. I mentioned it earlier that Ron and Hermione do support Harry. They're his best friends, and they're like, hey, maybe, we got you. We're going to support you. We obviously see Harry snap at Ron after his little bicker session with Seamus, and it's kind of puts them in between a rock and a hard place. They're being supportive, they're trying to be his friend, but he's also biting their heads off every 5 seconds, and that's addressed in the book. It's not so much addressed in the movie, of course, but
well, it's also, it's not even just that Harry's dealing with the trauma, but it's also, he says it later, not in the exact words, but he says to Dumbledore later on, near the end of the film, they just can't relate.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they know what he's going through. They know what happened, and they believe him, and they're supporting him, but they can't relate because they haven't experienced something like that. And later on, when the Dumbledore was saying, like, I know how this is. I know how this must be for you. And Harry outright and I love this for him, that he outright tell him, no, you don't. Like, you don't get it. And I personally, it is no secret that I don't really care for Dumbledore. So the fact that Harry actually said that, I'm like, thank you, yes. Because, like, this man completely shunned you for an entire year while you're going through PTSD as a 15-year-old. Like, it's...
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, and Dumbledore's reasoning for it, too, bothers me. The fact that he says, like, I did it because I'm getting too attached to you. And it's like, okay, but a child is suffering, and you could have helped.
Also, if you really know what he's going through, wouldn't you have been there for him?
Uh-huh. So I think it's more of just Hermione and Ron taking a back seat, the fact that they can't relate. And that kind of goes back to Luna, like what we were talking about. Luna did see her mom pass right in front of her, and she, like, and so I feel like, again, that's going back to how there's just different people that are relating or not relating to Harry on so many levels. Like Cho, the whole, like, it's more touched on in the books, of course, but Cho and Harry, the reason that one of the main reasons why they don't work is the fact that they just, neither of them can really get past Cedric. Like, they can't be in a relationship because Cedric's there.
Yeah.
It's something that she hasn't fully healed from. He hasn't fully healed from in a vastly different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't, they were only dragging each other down. They weren't healing each other. And so it's just like, it's Cedric's death did such a number on Harry, but it impacts how everyone around him relates to him throughout this entire book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the case. You talked about Dumbledore for a little bit ago. Let's get to isn't Dumbledore versus Voldemort probably everybody's kind of favorite scene? Isn't that kind of like the biggest scene in the movie, or am I wrong about that?
No, I think that's safe to say it's probably one of the best scenes, if not the best scene in this movie.
Or at least iconic.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, when you think about this movie, what's the scene you think about? Is it that scene? Is it the duel?
I mostly think about that or Sirius's death because it's just
Sirius,
horrible. But no, and the thing is, with the chapter of the book, I think it's something along the lines of the only one he feared, referring to Voldemort, having feared only Dumbledore, because he's of equal, if not, how am I trying to say this?
They're evenly matched wizards.
There you
right?
go. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, like they're rivals, but Dumbledore will probably best you in just about everything. I mean, think what you want of the guy. I don't particularly care for Dumbledore either. I think he's done a lot of shady shit. We'll talk about that more when we get into Deathly Hallows. But but for what it is, he is a powerful wizard, and you have to give the credit where credit's due. Same goes for Voldemort. I mean, Voldemort. It's almost kind of like looking at Luke and Anakin in a way. Like, if we're going Star Wars, they're both very powerful, or Yoda, and you kind of throw it all in there, and like they're all powerful in their own right. So to see this scene, having read the books obviously, and just how it all plays out is really incredible. Visually, it's incredible. Andrew says, wrong, best scene in the series. Okay, all right, we know how Andrew feels. It's really cool. It's really cool. Amber mentioned earlier about like the sound effects of the different spells being cast. It's kind of like it gives each spell kind of its own personality, which is really cool. And the fact that it's happening in the Ministry, where the only reason that the Death Eaters and Voldemort are there are to retrieve this prophecy, which I always thought was kind of stupid. And maybe this is partially the reason why I don't like this book so much, is I just don't think it's a fleshed out plot with the prophecy. You know, only one can live, neither can live while the other survives, right? And for some dumb reason, the prophecy is the one thing that could help, or not the one thing, but it's one of the things that could help Voldemort in his cause to defeat Harry, and it can only be retrieved by the person whom the prophecy is about. I just thought that was a really stupid idea.
It's kind of convoluted.
It's like, is it really necessary though? Now, the whole thing going into the Ministry, the big rescue mission, if you will, so much of that was left out in the movie. I'm not even going to really go into it.
I love the Department of Mysteries.
I know.
In the book.
I know, and I'm going to encourage everyone to go and read the books at some point. Listen to the audiobooks, because it's just way more detailed, and that aspect of this book is really cool. But when we get to the scene of the duel between Voldemort and Dumbledore, it's just like shit's going down, and you just know it, you felt it. I think it was really cool, because this is probably like one of the very few times you would ever get to see Dumbledore like in his element, if you will. Like, he was always kind of giving you that I'm very reserved. Like, I don't use magic unless I absolutely have to. I don't like to boast about it.
But we know that like he supposedly he defeated the Dark Wizard before Voldemort, that he's like this amazing hero, and everyone talks about how insanely powerful and talented he is, but we never get to see it.
Yeah.
Until now.
Yeah. It's a really cool scene. Just the fact that it happens in the Ministry, like I said, and the Ministry has been speaking out against Harry and Dumbledore, and questioning if, Potter or plotter. I love that on the Daily Prophet newspaper. I think that was always clever how they did that, and it's just appropriate. You have the big duel scene inside the establishment, and when the Ministry people show up, there's no denying that Voldemort is back, and now Cornelius has to pay for everything that he's said, speaking out against Harry and Dumbledore. They've been vindicated. He's got to step down because he's made an ass of himself, and rightfully so.
But I also feel like that kind of weakens the Ministry in the future for the Death Eaters to infiltrate it, because it basically just shows that hey, like we fucked up, and that what's that going to look like to the greater wizarding world, and to like the adults, like the non-main characters that we see, like Seamus's mom. We hear a lot about this one throughout this book, movie. What about people like her who aren't directly involved with Harry or Dumbledore? They're going to see like, oh well, Ministry, they like, can we really trust them now? And then it's proven correct. It just weakens them.
Gotta learn to think for yourselves, people. Like, you just got to. I want to read really quick something Andrew said. It just kind of made me laugh. Voldemort in a Muggle business suit is blasphemy. You're telling me a man who hates Muggles is going to dress like them? Nah, never. To that, agreed. I will say, he looked damn good in that 3-piece suit. Every single time I watch this movie, and every single time I see that scene, I think to myself, damn. Despite the snake-like features and the bald head, and he's alabaster, he looks good in that 3-piece suit. Just saying.
It takes me out of it, just like what Andrew said. Like, I'm just kind of like, what? Like,
okay. But think, Ralph Fiennes in a three-piece all-black suit. Damn, looks good.
I can't see him anymore without seeing Voldemort. It's like a curse now. Like, watching the menu, I have no problem thinking about,
man.
Like,
great movie, by the way, y'all. The Menu, watch it.
Randomly, randomly on TV, couple months ago was Made in Manhattan, and he's the love interest.
Yeah.
I was so uncomfortable
Oh yeah.
throughout the entire movie. Like, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
I knew that, but I guess
He's
after so
also-
long of seeing him as Voldy.
He's also the voice of Ramesses in The Prince of Egypt, another great movie. But we
Mhm.
digress. We're gonna come back to Harry Potter. But yeah,
Speaking of Voldemort, I've mentioned this before, but I do like how, as these movies progress, we're getting a little bit more Voldemort in every movie. You know, I think it's like, I think they're doing a good job of like, you know, it's kind of like with Jaws. Like, you know, if you don't see the more you don't see the shark, the scarier the shark is. You know, like
Yeah.
they're kind of like building it up to. I know, you know, in the final two movies we get a lot of Voldemort, but they've done a good job of kind of sprinkling him in and like, you know, just increasing it by, you know, a couple of notches every movie. So
It's like they're piecing him together or something.
but yeah, I draw issue with Voldemort in the last two movies, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
sounds good. Do y'all have any other scenes or anything you want to touch on that we did not talk about, Amber?
Well, we have to have my wand corner.
Well, yeah, no, yeah, we'll get to that.
course.
But before your
No,
wand corner, is there anything before that? Like,
Well, it actually is kind of important to like the actual story. Luna and Neville break their wands during the Battle of the Department of Mysteries, and so in the going forward after this, they both get new wands, and it's really, really important to me the fact that Neville's wand belonged to his dad, and it was a unicorn core, which is intensely loyal to its first and chosen owner, and cherry, which is like a notoriously tricky wood to master, and that was his father's wand that he was using his entire like wizarding career. He was using his father's wand, and that is a unicorn core, and it's surprisingly not. I touched about this with Ron in the second book when he broke his that hand-me-down wand. That hand-me-down wands, just for one, they don't work as well, and two, if they're unicorn core, they're never going to work as well. So, like, I'm excited in the future to see Neville with a wand that is actually suited for him, because that's exciting to me. But especially since we're starting to see Neville grow.
Literally.
But I mean, it's just we're starting to see him become more of who he is and more defined in his character. And I think that's great because, you know, he was the other side of the prophecy. If it wasn't Harry, it'd been Neville. And it's just, and like we've been mentioning many times, I love that duel. I think it does lag very, very much, and they could have done a lot more with some things, but overall, it's okay. It's good. It still gets us going.
I mean, there's a lot of good scenes in this movie. I think also introducing the Hog's Head. It's the very first time that we get to see the Hog's Head in Hogsmeade. There is a connection, the owner to a character that we know in this series already, and we'll get to see it again in later movies. Just little planting of seeds here and there that will later, you know, mean something in later movies, which is, you know, well done. It's not that these movies aren't well done. It's just there's a lot of things that were changed, excluded, that I feel like it could have just added more for visual purposes, and for people, you know, such as Justin and those who obviously have not read the books. I would have absolutely loved to have seen from the book the St. Mungo's Hospital scene. Of course, learning more about Neville's family, but then we also get to see a character that we saw and came to love and hate at the same time from previous books, and that's Gilderoy Lockhart. We get an update on Gilderoy Lockhart, the former Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and you know what he's up to. So yeah, like it's really funny it would have been really funny to have seen. But also to see kind of Harry come into his own element of being able to teach and to teach these really important spells, these really advanced spells to others, shows just how powerful he really is, and that's never been something I've doubted. It's just to kind of see that in the forefront, because later on his chosen career would be to be an Auror, and you kind of just see that blossom in this movie.
Yeah.
But I just really
he can be a leader.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like we really got shortchanged in terms of the relationship he had with Sirius, and once again, how impactful that death really means to Harry, because now he truly feels like just alone. The ending scene that he has with Luna, I think, is really sweet. It's the end of the school year, they're all getting ready to leave, and she's trying to locate her items, and he's like, do you need help? And she says, no, but I want to tell you, like, I'm really sorry about your godfather. And he's like, oh, you sure you don't want any help? She's like, no, things have a way of coming back to you, even in ways you least expect it to. And you see like a pan of the camera, her shoes are hanging from the archway, and he kind of thinks about it. He kind of ponders on that, and I actually hate this line at the very end. It's kind of stupid to me. They're walking to the train station, and he's like, I thought about something that Dumbledore said about Voldemort, is that, we have something worth fighting for. And I'm like, well, Voldemort does too. He thinks he's in the right. He thinks, whatever he thinks. It's like, yeah, he's got something worth fighting for as well. Like, don't be stupid.
Yeah. It was kind of a wah kind of last scene.
Yeah, but I mean, the implication is they're fighting for each other.
I get it.
And
They're
Voldemort is fighting for
good.
himself.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but
It's just like,
I feel like the
they're
energy could have
15.
been different. I feel like the energy just could have been different, because we've been saying, the movies are getting darker. They are getting more serious. This is a war. More drastic measures are being taken, and then they're like, and we're gonna end it on this heartwarming note. I feel like they just should have tempered it a bit differently. I'm not saying like end it with Sirius and the archway. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
God, no.
Yeah, I'm saying something a little bit more appropriate for the energy of this movie, this book.
One last thing, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Justin. We got robbed. We got robbed of this scene from the book. We got a little snippet of the professional relationship Umbridge has with Professor McGonagall, right? We saw them go back and forth on the stairs, right? We were robbed of this glorious scene from the book in which Harry gets in trouble with Umbridge, excuse me. And he's being sent off to go talk to his head of house, which is McGonagall. And so the note that comes with him is basically what he did to Umbridge, why he's in trouble. And so she's questioning him, did you do this? Did you do that? Yes, I did that. And she says to him, have a biscuit, Potter. And he's like, what? Like, she's not mad at him for going off on Umbridge. Okay. Like, she's cool with it. Like, in other words, she's tired of Umbridge's shit as well. And so she's not going to punish Harry for, whatever it is that he did or said. I think it was something he said. But man, I would have loved to have seen that dynamic with McGonagall and Harry develop, because it matters.
Yeah, it does. And there are things that are left out of the movies in the future movies that, like, McGonagall does mean not as much as like Sirius, but she does mean a lot to Harry.
Yeah.
Like, he is very attached to her, and because she's kind of a parental figure. I mean, for however long the school year is, she's his head of house. And like,
she very much cares for him. Very much.
Yeah. And I mean, there's just, and she also, I mean, she taught the Marauders. So, and and his mom, like, she remembers all of that. And it's just, it's sentimental and it's sad. So I think like her showing a little bit of a playful side, like, hey, I'm not that strict. here you go, have a cookie. Like
Mhm.
it's at that moment, I knew I'd do anything for McG. I love her so much.
Protect McGallions at all costs. That's the binge mode reference in case. Shout out to binge mode.
But
I love her so much.
That kind of begs the question. You know, I'm watching these movies on Max, and the first time I watched them, I think I watched them mostly on TV, or I DVR'd them on TV and watched them. Are there a lot of deleted scenes if you have the DVDs of and the Blu-rays of the Harry Potter movies? Is that something that they did back then, or did they not do a ton of that stuff?
Not a lot.
Not a
Yeah.
lot. I mean,
And the only
there
ones
was
that I can really remember is in Goblet. Those are the only ones that are really clear in my memory. But they don't really know. They didn't film these scenes.
The first two definitely had deleted scenes or extended scenes, if you will. I don't recall any for Prisoner of Azkaban off the top of my head. If I'm sure there are, but the majority I think are Goblet of Fire related. The last few movies, no, not so much. Why couldn't tell you, but that yeah, that's I just feel like we were just robbed of certain scenes. Now I will say too, speaking of scenes, the fireworks scene when Fred and George are leaving the castle in spectacular glory was extremely well done with the dragon. Kind of gave me Lord of the Rings vibes, you know, the dragon fireworks that Gandalf, a wizard, has in his stash. So yeah, that was really cool. And the music behind it too. Amber talked earlier about the score. Fireworks is probably one of the most used sound bites, at least on Instagram when we post stories,
sure.
you know, on our channels and whatnot. So it's just fun. It's just upbeat, and it always makes you think of the Weasley twins. It's great.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay. Do y'all have any closing thoughts on the movie before we get out of here? Amber?
None for me. I'm really excited for Half-Blood and Half-Blood and the Deathly Hallows are my favorite books and some of my favorite movies. So I'm very excited for the next ones coming up.
Very cool.
I have feelings.
Brittany, what about you for
closing thoughts for Order of the Phoenix? Like I said, it's not ranking high for my Harry Potter rankings, book or movie. It's going to be at the bottom just because I don't care for the movie. I don't care for the book. Difficult read, but that shouldn't discourage anyone from reading the series and watching the movies either. It's just something I felt that feels like it could have been condensed or it could have just been told differently, if you will. So overall, it's a movie that, you know, is kind of needed to progress the story, although it doesn't really move the bar that much, other than the fact that everyone now finally believes that Voldemort is back. Cool. If you just believed it from the get-go, we wouldn't have needed this movie. We wouldn't have needed this movie, but you know, it is what it is. So we're here. It's here. Moving on. I'm excited for Half-Blood Friends, just like Amber. It's actually my favorite Harry Potter movie for various reasons.
I love it. I love it so much.
But there's also things in that movie that I feel could have been done differently, and they definitely deleted some things that I think were just so important to the story. But anyway,
of course.
So,
story of our lives.
So my kind of final thoughts on the film are: this is probably one of the weaker movies, but I'm more familiar with the characters because we've been watching these. I mean, I'm watching them with more, you know, I'm really like digging into it. So
you're actually watching them this time.
Right. I'm actually watching it, but also like, I just kind of know the characters and I kind of understand it better. And so while it wasn't like a great movie, honestly, it kind of felt like it was like kind of a TV show. And I wonder, like, with that potential TV show that's in the works, maybe some of the things we talked about that from the books that didn't make the movie, maybe the TV show is a place where they can kind of explore these threads that were not, fully fleshed out in the movies. I'm not sure.
That's if we can get this strike, over and done with. I'm not
right.
worried about the series until
Yeah, no, I know.
Strike
I'm
is
just saying
over.
Oh yeah.
there's an opportunity there. There's stuff
Sure.
that they could explore that because otherwise, like you're just kind of redoing the same stuff that we've already seen.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, even not to get too far off topic, but with the Percy Jackson show, they've said before, like Rick Riordan said before, that they're getting to explore things that he didn't get to touch on in the books with the new show. So that's really exciting. So I kind of hope that they go that route with the show, kind of just either expanding on things or including things that we missed before. And I feel like they'd kind of be foolish not to, considering Brittany and I are not in the minority when we say that there are certain scenes and certain things that were very important that were completely cut out, and we were upset about it. We're not in the minority here. There's lots of people who feel very much the same way or similar. And not everyone can be happy. There's no way you can make 100% everybody happy. But this is something that the fandom has been saying for years and years and years. Like, hey, we have a problem that this was not included this time. So they'd be foolish not to include it now.
Yeah. That makes sense.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. So, Amber, you have a wonderful YouTube channel. How can people who are watching or listening to this now, how can they check it out?
Well, thank you very much for using my pun.
Yep.
My channel is a study of wands and wand lore in the wizarding world. So it's wand analysis of the wands that we see in the books and the movies. You can find me on YouTube. I also have an Instagram and a TikTok and a Tumblr for the people who still use Tumblr, like I do. And it's all of them are at the same thing at OllivAmbers.wands. It's spelled like Olive Anders, just change the N to an M and the D to a B. Because it's my name, Amber, OllivAmbers. OllivAmbers.wands. Everywhere. You can find me on definitely talk to me on Instagram. I love talking and chatting, especially about wands, but I also like other things, not just wands. But yes, follow my channel, please. Today is the 2-year anniversary of my channel, and we are at 245 subscribers. So 15 away from 300. I am very, very excited, and I am, now that I'm settled in my new home, I hope to record more videos soon and get back on track on there.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to seeing new wand videos from you. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Brittany, we're also on social media. Could you let people know how they can find us there?
Yeah, for sure. So thank you to everyone who has joined us today in the live chat. This is probably the best and honestly most entertaining way of talking with us. I personally love getting the feedback from those in the chat, and we appreciate Yesenia, Andrew. We also had Leslie and Amber's mom here earlier as well. McDorks, Bricky, Corey, and Mel. They joined us earlier. We appreciate you all being here. And we appreciate those who are watching the replay. We would love to hear your thoughts on Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter series altogether, books, movies, and anything and everything else that you enjoy pop culture wise, because that is what the Watchers in the Basement does. We talk a lot about pop culture. We just did our series wrap up on Secret Invasion, the Disney Plus mini series. Oof. Go check that out if you want to hear our thoughts about that. But don't forget to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. We just hit 270 subscribers, so we're 30 away from hitting 300 subscribers. It's very exciting. So go find 30 people, bring them here, tell them to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that like button and that notification bell. That way you know the next time we're having a live pod, which happens to be tomorrow, August 1st. Justin, you want to tell them about that real quick?
That's right. Tomorrow is National Spider-Man Day. And to celebrate, I'm going to have, my favorite all-time band, Bowling for Soup. The bass player for the band, his name is Rob Felsetti. He's a huge Spider-Man fan. And so he's going to join me tomorrow. We're going to talk all things Spidey on National Spider-Man Day. So please join us tomorrow here on the YouTube channel. And it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Brittany.
Yesenia wants to know if we're dressing up. Are you dressing up?
I can't give away the gimmicks that could
Y'all are
possibly.
just gonna have to come and join the live stream tomorrow to find out if Justin and our
Well,
special guests are joining or dressing up. Come on.
and I just want to say something else. We've talked about Spider-Man before because we've been doing this podcast for over 5 years, and in that time period, there's been two other live-action Spider-Man movies, and there's been a couple of animated movies. So hey, go back in our archives and check out our Spider-Man Far From Home review if you want to see some surprises. That's all I'll
Oh
say.
man.
That was
I
a fun
forgot
day.
about that. That was a fun day. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Good old days when the Watchers were actually in a basement
In person.
studio.
Yeah,
In
together.
person.
Yeah, side by
Jeez.
side
Yeah, good times.
in a very
times.
cold studio. Yeah.
Boy, was it cold. I don't miss
Very
that. Although it's hot here in Texas, my God, it's hot. But for those of you who are interested in following us on social media, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I got to add the icon here, Justin. Threads. We just joined Threads today at time of recording, July 31st, Harry Potter's birthday. We're on Threads. So go find us over on Threads. It's easily connected to your Instagram account. I mean, hey, follow us on Instagram. Go follow us on Threads. Okay, just do us a favor. Do that. So yeah, go find us at Watchers Basement on social media. You can also help spread the word and help grow our audience by using hashtag Watchers Basement. So use that hashtag when you want us to review something, check out a meme, or just want to say, hey, like, we love hearing from all of you out there. We really appreciate your support. And if video podcast is not your thing, we've got you covered. We have audio podcasts available to you on Apple, Google, and Spotify. We'd appreciate it if you give us a follow over on any one of those platforms and give us a 5-star rating. It really helps out our channel as we are forever growing. We have a goal to get to 300 YouTube subscribers by the end of 2023. So help make that happen, y'all. We really appreciate the love and support we've received so far.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany. We do. We really appreciate everybody joining us for these and commenting, whether you comment live or you comment later on. It really helps us out. We appreciate it. I just want to say we are still on Twitter, although Twitter is now X or something. They've changed the name or I don't know.
Update that too. Damn it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what it's called this week. Who knows what it'll be called next week? Maybe it'll go back to Twitter. But yeah, there's lots of ways to check us out, and we appreciate it. So for Brittany and for Amber, this is Justin saying thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.